Hello everyone, welcome to the Techforce Podcast Show. I'm your host Shivani, and today we're going to talk about how blockchain is helping women to scale up their businesses. And we have our guest today, Pretty Kubayane. Hi Pretty.
Hi, Shivani. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Pretty is a co-founder of Coronet Blockchain, and I recorded a past podcast. You guys should go and check out with Shadrach Kubayan, and today I'm doing with Pretty Kubayan. They both are co-founders of Coronet Blockchain. So, Pretty, why don't you tell our listeners what do you do?
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. And thanks again for having me. This is going to be amazing. Looking forward to it.
Right. So, uh, tell our audience how did you find about blockchain and can you explain what do you do in at Coronet Blockchain?
No, absolutely. Thank you for your question. So, blockchain, we bumped into it. We came to knowing blockchain because we had a number of supply chain problems we're looking for to actually solve. So it is very true that blockchain, I think it's true for every technology, that blockchain, similar to many technologies, it's a solution that is looking for problems. So back in
Yeah.
2013, a bit on myself, on my back experience. I grew up in a family business, so I started working for the family business from the age of 6. So it was just a way of life. Everybody does it. It's like you're doing dishes today or you're going to the office with your parents. So it was just a way of life. And we're in a remote village, so we're gonna have to solve our own problems.
Yeah.
So that was a way of life of doing business. The second business that my parents ran was a car fixing business as well over the weekends, where it ran like an apprenticeship type of a business, because we had these young boys that were not really coping in a schooling system, but because it's like a village schooling, so there is no special program. Nobody knows what to do with them. It's like, okay, if you're not doing well, there's nothing we can do for you. And then
Yeah.
he'll take them in and then give them employable skills so that they could actually learn how to fix anything electronic and motorized, from cars to grass cutting machines and
Right.
other stuff. So
Yeah.
he will do that. And then when they turn 18, you get them a driver's license, take a part of their money to save it so that when they turn 21, they will start building their own houses. So that mix of business with purpose, with really solving problems while impacting people's lives, that's what came in handy when time came, which led us into blockchain later on when I was working in the management consulting, where a client came in and she has been working with my co-founder in a corporate job, and she got retrenched. Her department closed down. So she was running this, we call it side hustle, like every
Everyone
African
does.
woman has it,
Yeah.
because the income is never enough. Like you start your job, it's just you,
And,
and then you have a house, and then we have
right.
like 10 kids.
Yeah.
So our salary are never enough. So we always have this side hustle stuff that
Yeah.
we are running. So she had one of those while she was in corporate, and it was in
Right.
hair extension and other beauty stuff. And then when she got fired, she realized that she started looking for a job in corporate. It didn't work. And then she realized she had children. She needs to put food in the table. And she started taking her side hustle seriously. And within a year, she had like 6,000 clients. And she
That's
came
nice.
to us and she was like, you know what? I think there's something here, but because I've worked in corporate all my life, it's a bit of a disorganized industry. So I need you guys to put systems in place for me so that later on I can run a business that is more formalized. And it was an exciting challenge for me personally. The reason why I was mentioning how I was brought up before, where we were doing business and there's purpose and then there is really impacting people's life, is because they can't, she
Yeah.
didn't meet the criteria of a business we work with, because
Yeah.
businesses we work with should make minimum 1 million going forward back then.
Yeah.
So there were scale ups. So we didn't work with a business, and we did not work in an informal sector at all. We worked in
Yeah.
organized industries.
Organized.
So
Right.
because of that muscle memory of impacting people's lives when we were young in business, because I thought all businesses actually run like that, I was able to convince the team to like, here's a woman who has been retrenched at work. She's not sitting home feeling sorry for herself. She wants to start a business, and it could actually be something. So before I spoke with them, I conducted a feasibility with my team to find out that it was actually a 7 billion US dollar industry. We had about 25 million African women that spend about 290 US dollars every year to buy the product. So it had a really potential. And I gave our team a challenge to say, what if in 3 years from now, we can actually run this business to be evaluated at 3 million. We can be able to sell it to investors at that, or we can franchise it because it's going to be like the brand that everybody wants to buy into, or we can get investors to take it nationally. And it actually paid off, because in about 36 months, the business was not really valuated at 3 million. It was valuated at 2 million. And it has now, from a team of 2, it was employing 40 people, and it was bringing that 2 million US dollars every year. And it was a kind of a story that will make headlines, because if there was a kind of a business that a retrenched woman can start with a startup capital of $500, and 3 years later she's employing 40 people, Africa needs those kind of businesses that move from side hustle into real business and really employing people. But it was that media attention that, because that's where most businesses actually they break, is when now you move from starting from a need, and then growth is here, and then the media attention just accelerated everything. We received thousands of similar businesses wanting the same success. And we had mainstream retailers as well. You know how there's this department stores like Macy's and others, where you have Sephora, where you have makeup session and stuff like that. So they wanted us to have that little store across their 600 branches across the continent. So that's when we realized, now that we are solving a problem of scale, we knew there were supply chain problems of the product itself. We knew there was no consistency in the product. One shipment is fine, next month it is not fine. And whatever products are sold in the mainstream, regulation is very strict. You can never sell a product that the quality is unstable. Because remember, if you and I will buy something from Walmart, for example, we don't go to Unilever to say, oh no, something is wrong with my body lotion. We go to Walmart. So what does Walmart does? They make sure that it is very strict to make sure that the product that are sold there are safe, the quality is consistent all the time. So that was a big problem. Even big business facing the same thing. They're telling us if we buy like 1,000 handbags for the spring collection, we get like 100 samples. And then when the shipping comes, 80% of it is like all different shades of blue, but we ordered blue. So they had to go to mostly they had manufactured, large scale manufacturers in Asia. So they had to go there and make sure they manually police the quality of the product. Otherwise, they're going to lose a lot of money, because sometimes product compliance and quality assurance can be very expensive. Our companies like ISO certification, an average certification can be like 50,000 US dollars. Like, that's a lot of money, especially for a small business. So small businesses, they couldn't really achieve that. And we were among those people. 2, they realized that even our quality authentication process, because the businesses they work with, they are like large scale. So they have this manufacturing cycle that is like 3 months, and then they'll come in maybe only twice a year. But our order cycle was like more consistent than that. Every 2 weeks, they had to fly
Right.
to China to get the product. So it was very difficult to police the quality of the product. So that was the main big problem, to go out
Right.
there to say, is there a way to actually find a solution that can guarantee us the provenance of all products that are sold in within this brand. And when we found out that obviously it must be technology, it must be reapplicable to other things as well, because we knew it was going to
Yeah.
be an expensive type of a technology. And we
Yeah.
knew, oh, if we can tell the quality of the hair, can we tell the quality of a jacket, a handbag, wine, carpets, sneakers, and everything that has got a quality standard claim to it? Can we
Yes.
build a system that can actually do that? So that's why how we came about funding Coronet Blockchain, and we presented it to IBM. We got two
Right.
tranches of funding to build the technology itself.
That's quite a journey actually, and it's really impressive how from some small business, it turned out to be a huge supply chain. That is really a wonderful way to like get into blockchain and talk about blockchain.
Absolutely.
Yes. So my question was one thing that I had in my mind, like how does blockchain help small businesses, especially like people in developing economies like India, Africa. We have small businesses running. We have a lot of small businesses. So, what are your views on how blockchain help those?
Absolutely. So most business like the one that I just spoke about, especially in developing countries, because
Yeah.
businesses start in two ways. It's either
Yes.
there's a gap in the market, meaning that there's a problem that I'm maybe facing, and I know other people that are facing, and somebody realized, oh, well, the world maybe instead of like taxes, they need an on-demand type of a system in case of those kind of business. So it can start like that, or it
Yeah.
started off in. So the majority of businesses in developing countries and emerging economies, they start out of a personal need, not even an industry need. They start because, not because I read some report on financial economic report and I just know where the economy is coming. No, it's that because I need to put food on the table. So that's how most of the businesses start. So
Yes.
between the starting and the scale up, that's where the problem becomes. Sometimes it's not even they're starting because there's a great incentive to start a business because you're not going to eat, so you're going to have to start a business. But then
Yeah.
when you get to the scale up, now the need has been met, and then now you are facing scaling problems
Yeah.
with
Right.
scale. For
Yeah.
example, now that you had the products you were manufacturing or you were having, now you need your products, because a sustainable business must have long-term types of contracts. Any financing institution, if they're going to finance you, they want to know that you're going to be open for the next 5 years. And one way
Right.
to prove that is to actually have long-term types of contract, having big business being your
Yeah.
customers, having your
Yeah.
products consumed in the mainstream. That is very
Right.
exciting. But what happened behind the scene is it's a very complex process in building up to that. One of those is what I've spoken about, which is product compliance,
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
have to prove the quality of the product, make sure it is consistent all the time, and all the certifications that will be required from you, from the retailers and everybody, to make sure that if it's sold. All industries are regulated, and regulation and compliance can be very expensive. So that's one of the things that has really, really held back a number of businesses, because when it comes to that thing of compliance, that's why people would rather, like, I rather just keep my business small. I'll sell directly to the people that know me from my small shop instead of
Yeah.
having your product in like
Yes.
1,000 shops instead. So that's one of the problems that people will have to solve, and where the blockchain technology comes very handy, because the kind of compliance that happens in blockchain is more real time. I know you will know what is happening if there's produce, for example, that are being grown somewhere. Your
Yeah.
retailers actually know in real time what is happening. They can be traceable, and industries are becoming more customer centric today. So is that leapfrogging from just not having systems and not being able to afford a compliance, and being able to use a system that could be real time. So the last part, which is also linked to product quality, is what most businesses have faced is counterfeits.
Yeah.
Because whenever there's a good product, it becomes in demand. People are going to start making counterfeits and knockoffs of the same
Definitely.
product as well. And having to
Yeah.
find out that I'm buying the right product is
Yes.
where the blockchain technology comes handy.
All right. We were going to talk about women in blockchain. So, according to you, how many women entrepreneurs in Africa currently know about blockchain? Just give us a rough estimate.
So the knowledge of blockchain is in multiple ways. On the educational side, one thing
Right.
that I'm seeing globally, and it's the same in Africa as well, most conferences, the majority of conferences, they always have a female speaker in
Yeah.
blockchain. And
Yes.
the cool part about it, the speakers are not just from only academia or they've written a book, they're actually implementing blockchain in their businesses. They own the blockchain startups, they
Yeah.
own IP in those kind of things. So on that side, it's a very what do you call it? It's a very good trend that I'm seeing, because blockchain, it being more effective, academic and education within blockchain is going to have to take the center stage so that it
Yeah.
can increase the awareness by many people. The second thing about it as well is a technical skill. So that one is, I would say, is very disappointing at this stage, because most teams hardly ever have a female
Yes.
what do you call it, a female developers in blockchain. I remember a few months ago, yeah, it was this year, where we had this project where we were developing something for a client, and we needed
Yes.
about 9 developers for a period of like 6 months, where we were gonna be. We advertised
Yeah.
everywhere, and the kind of advertising that we're doing is one that gives us a report and analytics that you can
Yes.
be able to say, well, this is a kind of a profile of people that I want. And to our surprise, 70% of people that were reached by the advert that actually matched the profile were women. But guess what? Zero applied. 100% men applied
That's,
for this thing. And
yeah.
it was very disappointing, because, you know, every day especially when I go to speak at conferences, it's always about equality. How do we get more women involved? And then when the opportunity is there, we don't apply, and men are applying and are there. So on Monday, I must talk with Shivani about, on Tuesday, I must talk with Shivani about women being included. But on Friday, I'm leading an all men team, because
Yeah.
those are the
Right.
people that applied. So because I
Yes.
couldn't sleep at night with such things, I had to start calling people from a number of ecosystem to say, well, we are looking for female design developers to join our team. So we had to try harder. We can't just say, oh, we put an advert, they didn't apply. That's it, which is what is happening. In corporate right now, in decision-making position, only 1% are actually
Yeah.
women that are making decisions
Right.
in blockchain technologies. And
Yes.
part of that, it could be corporate politics, but what also adding is that I feel like we are not stepping up and
Yes.
getting involved. We need a
Yeah.
little bit of a nudge, and it can be very tiring for me as a project manager, because I'm like, if I have to look hard and convince you to apply, you understand what a fast-paced environment we work in. Like, are you like 2 years old that we have to like tell you to go and apply? And then what? Must we give you sweeties now to get you to do your job because it's going to be
Yeah.
fast-paced? But the good part to that is that those female engineers that we had were so brilliant in the stuff that we were doing. And they understood exactly what we have to build, not just from a technical perspective, but from a user perspective, because we were building a platform whose consumer base were women. So if we don't incorporate that from the back end, from the build of the solution itself, the adoption is going to be a problem. And it was such a successful project because we had the people that understand technical, understand business, and are also consumers of the thing that we are trying to build, which is very much epic. So those, that's what do you call it? Yeah, we had to work very hard. And the last thing that I will mention about that is the ownership part, the ownership of the IP and the implementation of the blockchain itself within our businesses. So
Yeah.
at the moment, in the past 2 years, even now when things are starting to change now, 80% of our clients were actually male businesses. So we found out that male-led businesses were more keen to implement blockchain, quicker than the
Yeah.
female businesses. So we had that wait and see. If there's a new iPhone being launched, yeah, we buy it just like that. But then when there's changes that need to be made in business, we're a bit hesitant. But what we realized is once they were in, they were in. And once they were in, they were telling other people like, oh, this is
Of course.
working. So that's what you can count on. We may be a little bit hesitant to be quick adopters of certain things, especially on the production side. But once we are in, we're going to be telling like 10 of our friends that
Of
you
course.
need to switch and use blockchain for your supply chain. So now you get one client who's a female, and if they're excited, they tell another one. And you get one woman who goes into blockchain, they help 10 more women to understand the solution. So there's that effect. I'm not worried too much that our adoption is slow, but I know that those that are in blockchain, there's this sisterhood type of thing where they don't hold information. They tell you about opportunities, they mentor, they help others, they make sure there is impact in everything that they do.
Right, right. Yeah, that's wonderful. Actually, there are a lot of small communities of women that are helping out each other, especially in blockchain and NFTs. And like there's a whole another community for women artists who are creating NFTs and selling and buying them. There is a whole community of women blockchain developers who are promoting each other like on social media everywhere. They're supporting each other, and that's a wonderful change of and that's a wonderful change, and that's the movement, that's the kind of movement we need right now, especially in technical field.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. So just one question I wanted to ask: women entrepreneurs, are they keen, like you might be in touch with other women entrepreneurs, do you think that they are keen to learn about blockchain, or are they actively utilizing the blockchain technology?
Absolutely. I think weird enough, most of the industries, especially in emerging countries, that benefits the most from blockchain, they are women led. So that by default of that, I know history is an opposite of that because most beauty brands are owned by men, high heels, even our lingerie, the
Yeah,
biggest ones are actually owned by men. So we seem to kind of like get to consume stuff and not want to
yeah,
build stuff. So I'm hoping that this time we will actually stand up and
Yeah.
embrace blockchain fast, because unlike other revolution, the forced industrialization is actually industrial revolution is faster. So we don't really have 10 years to kind of think whether we like it or we don't like it. We're gonna have to kind of like get to it, because at the end of the day, whoever gets to own the IP and own the platform control what's happening.
Yeah.
And us being in countries like in continents like Africa, we have seen that where
Yeah.
companies are coming from the outside, bringing some form of technology that causes trade to be easy. At the end of the day, we end up with poverty job. It's unfair. They're not paying the right taxes. They're not including women. We need to stop wanting to be included, really. But like where we are in blockchain, there's no inequality. If blockchain is new, if we really work harder, maybe we can have men empowerment in blockchain instead of women empowerment, because we've opened so much gap. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a good thing actually. Like, as blockchain is decentralized, we can maybe, equalize whatever the gap we are facing in current industry, right? So that might be a thing. Like, we can, the more we promote, the more women will entertain, and the more women enter in blockchain, it's beneficial for everyone, right?
Absolutely. That is very
Yeah.
true.
Yes, yes. Okay, the question one which I wanted to ask was, what would you like to share about like African startups and like more about African startups that are led by women entrepreneurs? So why don't you talk about that?
Absolutely. So I think that when it comes to blockchain, especially with the African startups, there's a number of things. This is like an era of access versus value. So
Yeah,
years ago, women globally, because that's what we share as women, it has nothing to do with race. All of us, were our mothers or our grandmothers, were not really allowed to go and work and actually
yeah,
have a job. And
yeah,
fast forward today, in Africa, there's more female entrepreneurs than there is men entrepreneurs. 60%
yeah,
of businesses in Africa are actually led by women. But the
correct.
question is, now that we have access into working, we are leading businesses, is the value really sitting with us? Do we own the market share of
Mm,
whatever is happening? Are we having quality jobs or poverty jobs? Would we
yes,
retire and be comfortable? And the answer to that is no, because the majority of businesses in Africa are very informal. It's a good thing in a way, because if the entire economy of Africa, 80% of it is carried by, on the employment side, is carried by startups. So that
yeah,
is very good in that regard. But the thing is, Africa cannot longer afford to have informal businesses. We have to formalize. And during these times of COVID, it was a wake up call for many people, because talking about a digitization was that thing that everybody hears about it, but it's like a distant thing,
yeah,
until they found out that there was this fund that was launched by the government, which was a relief fund to help small
okay,
and medium businesses during the lockdowns to keep doors open. And
yeah,
what was needed was something simple, proof of trade, meaning that
yeah,
can I prove it that I
mm,
have been trading? It was
yeah,
heartbreaking, because one, these businesses have been creating jobs, they have been trading in millions, but they just couldn't prove it because everything is done informally. And now they got to realize during crisis that it's not like, oh yeah, do I want a booking system so that I can digitally prove that I really had 10 clients today? Do I want an inventory management system so that I can prove that I held inventory of that
yeah,
amount? Do I
right,
need what do you call it? Those is ERP systems that can like track everything about my business. When I
yes,
speak formalization, I'm talking about proof. providing proof of trade so that when you need to grow, you've got data. When you need to get investors, you've got proof to show them that you've been doing good and you can do good in the next 3 years, 10 years. So that what has been missing a lot, and that's how we've been losing value, because we're just excited about getting involved. We're excited about being in tech and being in health, being in retail, but at the end of the day, when you look in the bigger picture, you realize that we're just there, but value is not retained with us, and we can't move past starting. It doesn't matter where and how you start. At the end of the day, is that we shouldn't stay as side hustles and small businesses. We need to scale businesses and have them sustainable. So I think that that's where the African business is waking up to. It's unfortunate that we had to wake up to that because of COVID, when we realized just how vulnerable we and exposed we are when we don't actually run sustainable businesses.
Yes, like on a brighter side, we can say that COVID helped the blockchain industry as a whole to progress a lot, and we got to learn about decentralization and how that might be helpful for from small to medium to large industries from everywhere, right? So yeah, it took a COVID to make us realize that how blockchain is important.
Absolutely.
All right. So on an ending note, Pretty, what would you like to share? Like, what advice would you like to give to women entrepreneurs, especially related to blockchain?
No, absolutely. So I think my favorite, I don't know if it's an economic word, but it's an English word, is called prosume. So it's when people produce and consume. And people may think it's like ages ago, but because I grew up in a village, we grew up like that. We produced stuff, we ate them, and then we sold them to our neighbors. Everything that was involved, whether it's clothes, we made them, we wore them, and then we sold them to the rest of the village, to the rest of the town. But the technology, blockchain technology now is enabling us to do that. On the other hand, you see macro influencers and big influencers. I was reading a report from one of the projects that we were working with when we were looking at the budget that was spent in that project for, it's a client's project for influencer marketing, where for every dollar we spend on macro influencers, the business realized 10 times, like meaning they got $10. For more established influencer, they spend $1 and they got $100. So the thing is, now if I'm like an influencer, I have an access to 200,000 people, and then instead of just providing access, I can start building my own brands. So we are seeing the move towards that, where a whole lot of women especially are starting lifestyle brands, and they are making millions selling the stuff they like in the industries they enjoy. Not all of us must move towards sophisticated and difficult technologies like blockchain and mining and stuff. We need representation there, but we are leaving money on the table because we want access more than ownership. So what I want to would like to see, I would like to see more female prosumers, people that actually produce and consume at the same time, people that make money and own the stuff that we consume all the time.
Yes, right. Yes, that's quite actually good. We need influencers, especially women influencers, to promote blockchain. That's how we can like reach out to more small business owners and more women-oriented businesses. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right then, Pretty. Okay, on an ending note, we would like to end the podcast on a positive quote from your end. Anything you would like to share with our audience?
Absolutely. So I think I would close with a quote. It's my favorite quote because it's from my dad. He's often said that a loaf of bread is, a half a loaf is better. It's said that a half a loaf is better than no bread at all. He was a big critic of that because he believed that sometimes when you start from nothing, you may stop at a slice of bread or a half a loaf, but he always say, never settle for that. because if we are born in communities like Africa, India, we have been chosen to actually go an extra mile. We're not supposed to
Exactly.
own a slice of bread. We're not supposed
Right.
to own a half a loaf. We're supposed to
Yeah.
own a bakery, because a bakery is going to feed you, it's
Yeah.
going to feed your family, it's going to feed the neighbor, it's going to feed the whole village. We can't expect
Yes.
a guy from the next village to come and feed people in
Yes.
this village. So it's my
Definitely.
favorite quote in that regard, because we can do more than just wanting to have a slice of something.
Yes. All right, pretty. That was wonderful to have a chat about women in blockchain and how blockchain is beneficial in small businesses, especially that coming from your end is a big deal for us. Thank you so much for joining the podcast show. It was wonderful to chat with you.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.